校长啊，校长啊，你可以。
Okay, so okay, so good morning to all of you. It's a great pleasure to host this event in the company of Professors Mario Campos and Yuanchun. We are facing the greatest collective change since the Second World War. No other challenge has claimed so many lives and brought so much economic loss to our planet since the last century. However, those tough times also remind us of the relevance of science and international cooperation to overcome our gravest problems. As we all know, Brazil and China have been very relevant partners. Since 2009, China is our main commercial partner. Notwithstanding the relevance of our relations, we still know little about each other. We are separated not only by 16,000 kilometers of distance, 11 hours of time difference, but by an abyss of ignorance. No fruitful relationship may exist without mutual understanding. Here is where UFMG and Remin might help. They are both comprehensive research-oriented universities with more or less the same number of professors. UFMG is regarded by different measures as the highest ranking federal university in Brazil and one of the top 5 institutions of higher learning in Latin America. UFMG is a gateway not only to Brazil, but to the Portuguese-speaking world and to Latin America. Renmin People's University of China is one of the top public universities in Beijing and in China and in Asia, and the most recognized institution in the fields of humanities and social sciences in China. Through this joint initiative that we celebrate today, we will organize events, conduct research, and exchange professors. All these activities will have as its utmost goal fostering mutual understanding of our countries and realities. Institutional cooperation depends on the willingness and concrete actions of people. From our side, from UFMG side, the strengthening of the partnership between Renmin and UFMG has been welcomed and supported not only by our international office, represented here today by myself and by Professor Dawisson Lopes, but also from our president, Professor Sandra Almeida, our dear Dean for Research, Professor Mario Campos, the director of our Confucius Institute, Professor Bárbara Orfanò. To all of them, I would like to express my appreciation and gratitude. I must say, however, that no one has worked more than my friend Jinlong Liu for this partnership to move forward. His enthusiasm, hard work, and ingenuity have been of paramount importance for us to get here, and I'm certain will be much needed in the following stages. So I would like to thank our partners at Renmin University, in the person of Jinlong Liu and Liu Yuanchun, the persons of them, for this relevant step forward. And I thank you all for joining us today. And I now give the floor to Professor Liu Yuanchun.
Okay. Good morning and good evening, dear Vice President Maria Campos, dear professors. I'm honored to attend this webinar initiated by UFMG, aiming at exploring the possible areas of cooperation in the field of environment and development between our two universities. And I'm very happy to share with you some of my thoughts. After several visits and email communicates between the two sides in the two past years, the MIN and the UFMG have reached a good cooperation intention and agreed on the building one overseas research center. On behalf of the University of China, I would like to thank the teams of both sides for your hard work, and I'm sure you would continue to work closely together to set up the center in the near future. The MIN is a comprehensive research-oriented national key universities, focusing on humanities and social sciences. The number of full-time students totals more than 27,000, including about 11,000 undergraduates, 10,000 postgraduates, 1,400 PhD candidates, and 1,300 foreign students. The number of international students is among the highest in China's university. The MIN's vision is to nurture exemplars of country and pillars of society, as we hold a huge advantage in social science and liberal arts. The MIN aims at fostering outstanding talents with high quality qualifications, which we call the nation builders. The MIN has always paid great attention to the role of humanities and social sciences in understanding the world, inheriting civilization, innovating theory, consulting government, and serving the society, while continuously developing academic studies. The MIN actively plays the role of think tank to study major political, economic, cultural, and social issues, and provide powerful theoretical and intellectual support for economic construction and social development. The year 2020 is decisive for China to overcome poverty. China's ecological civilization construction has desired to grant the goal of beautiful and healthy China. Environment and development is still a major issue confronting the vast number of developing countries. Despite global challenges, including the COVID-19 and globalization shocks, intensified climate change, widespread deforestation problems, widening income gap, and the increasing poverty, China and Brazil are leading the world trend in the field of environment and development. Facing new situations, new problems, and new challenges, Chinese and Brazilian scholars should strengthen research cooperation, carry out a series of studies, scientifically analyze and determine solutions, so as to continue wisdom to cause of global poverty reduction and ecological civilization. The university has always attached great importance to scientific research cooperation with international institutions, which is a fundamental way to solve problems. The university hopes to sign the cooperation agreement with UFMG as soon as possible, so as to strengthen the friendly cooperative relationship between the two universities, promote the intense development of inter-university academic cooperation, broaden the high-end platform for academic exchange, gather consensus of experts and scholars, form a batch of cooperation projects, and produce a massive number of extraordinary cooperation achievements. I hope that tonight, all experts and scholars will open your mind, speak freely, share experiences, and let the wisdom shine. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Liu Yuanchun. It's a great pleasure to host this panel together with you and Professor Mario Campos, to whom now I give the floor.
Good morning, good evening to our friends over in Remin. On behalf of our president, Professor Sandra Goulart Almeida, it's my great pleasure to be here this morning or this evening and to share this so special moment where we can actually see the kickoff or the start of the actual cooperation between our two universities. I'd like to greet Dr. Li Yuanchun and Dr. Liu Jinlong. I would like to express our gratitude for the great efforts that Professor Aziz and Professor Dawisson Lopes have invested in this venture. And we are so much hopeful that this will be a very fruitful and prolific cooperation. I'll just give some brief information about our university, which you may actually know. And Federal University of Minas Gerais, it's interesting, it's very similar in terms of profile with Remin University. Our university was founded in 1927. Actually, it started before with some schools and was joined as a federal university back in 1927. So we just 93 years old, somehow young. And the university, in terms of numbers, we are in the state of Minas Gerais, which is basically in the southeast part of the country, in the city of Belo Horizonte. And what I'm saying here in words, I do hope that you come here and see by yourself. And by the way, I had the opportunity to visit Beijing. Such a wonderful visit, such a wonderful time we had there. And we hope also that we, in this exchange of scholars, right, both professors and students from both sides, we'll be able to strengthen this ties and these bonds. So anyhow, the university, our university has about 3,000 professors, almost all of them with PhD, so over 90% And the university has basically three campuses, right? The main campus in Belo Horizonte, and one campus on the north, two campuses based on the north part of our state. We're about 50,000 students altogether, 33,000 as undergrads, about 10,000 in the grad school, both master's and doctorate or PhD. And we have about 2,700 students, what we call specialization, which is a grad level type of education, right? Altogether, we have 91 undergrad courses in several areas of knowledge. And the university, as Professor Aziz has pointed out, has been awarded the the highest grade by our Ministry of Education. And as far as Federal University is concerned, UFMG is basically on the top of the country, right? So it's a great honor for us. We, as far as research is concerned, the university has been very much focused on research on several areas of knowledge. We cover several areas of knowledge, and we have been able to increase our both output and the quality of our research, which is attested by the several rankings and also by some of the well-known sites of like the ones from Elsevier and also Web of Science. So I do believe that we have many opportunities for collaboration, and we do hope that during this next years to come, we'll be able to strengthen our ties, and we'll be able to actually increase even further our joint collaboration. As you may know, the impact of the research is greatly improved or greatly increased whenever you have publications, whenever we have journal publications that are authored by international co-authors. So besides just talking about publications, we do hope that together we will be able to tackle these very hard problems that we have ahead of us, not only those who were caused by this serious pandemic, but of those problems that our countries share somehow, the same times of challenges. So we do hope that through this partnership, we both will be able to gain, and we, as Professor Aziz has said, and also Professor Yuanchun, we do hope that this may strengthen our ties and lead us forward in a very wonderful manner. So I once again like to thank you so much for this opportunity, and I just want to wish all of us a wonderful future of great cooperation and great understanding. With that, I'd like to thank you once again for this opportunity, and I pass the word to Professor Aziz Saliba. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Mario, for your remarks. I join you in your enthusiasm with this initiative. Well, I will now dissolve this opening panel and give the floor to my friends Dawisson Lopes and Liu Jinlong for the discussions, the very relevant discussions that we will have today, with the participation of Professors Bárbara Orfanò, Lunyu Xi, Tian Xiaohui, which will be the first activity in this new partnership. I thank you all very much, and I paraphrase here the motto of Renmin by saying that together, UFMG and Renmin will seek the truth. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Saliba, Professor Campos, Professor Yuanchun. It's my honor to conduct this first panel within this initiative, joint research initiative involving Renmin University of China and the Federal University of Minas Gerais, UFMG. This panel is titled Brazil-China Cooperation, Challenges and Opportunities. And I have the honor to co-mediate this panel with Jinlong Liu, our old-time colleague and friend. He will also be playing another role, the one of speaker, so we'll get to know him eventually. As I was mentioning, this panel is dedicated to cooperation between the two countries. And when we speak of challenges and opportunities, I may tell you that I have the personal impression that opportunities far outnumber the challenges that lie ahead. Of course, there are challenges and paramount ones, but when I think of Brazil and China, what I think the first image, the first idea that springs up is the one of, I mean, the multiple potentials of collaborating. And when I see the two names, UFMG and RUC, put together, this impression is always reinforced, and I have this very positive feeling about our infant collaboration. Okay, so we have a very distinguished panel today. 5 professors who will be addressing issues related to Brazil-China cooperation. On the one hand, on the Brazilian side, Professors Bárbara Orfanò and Raoni Rajão, and on the Chinese side, and I must rely on my aide-memoire, Professors Lunyu Xie, Tian Xiaohui, and Jinlong Liu. Well, the menu of items covered by the rubric Brazil-China cooperation is a vast one. When I think of Brazil-China bilateral relations, I can think, for instance, of many topics relating to poverty alleviation, or maybe to the environmental governance or diplomacy. I believe that all these topics, all these items will be covered one way or the other. Our colleagues will be working alongside and developing and bringing up very interesting findings over the next years on these topics of utmost relevance to UFMG and RUC. When it comes to the environment, and I believe this is possibly the main theme of this panel number 1, Brazil and China have different profiles. Brazil has been, over the decades, a world champion when it comes to biodiversity or to food security and clean energy, just to mention a few topics. While China has lately has been catching up when it comes to becoming a greener economy, and as a matter of fact, a major green power in the world. We have lots to share, and I'm pretty sure that UFMG and Renmin University of China will be spearheading the way, will be showing the proper paths to be followed by the two countries with regard to this global environmental governance. This panel is very much about this, finding new ways, sharing findings, and exchanging ideas and information, high quality information. Okay, I should now give you some additional biographical information on our panelists. So as I mentioned before, I'll rely on a very, very competent and distinguished panel this morning in Brazil, evening in China. Firstly, Professor Orfanò will be speaking for the first 10 minutes. She's the director of UFMG's Confucius Institute and also the head of UFMG's Center for East Asian Studies. Then Professor Raoni Rajão, he will be speaking. He will be our second speaker. He's the head of the Environmental Services Lab at UFMG's School of Engineering. He also is a research scientist of the Brazilian National Council for Scientific and Technological Development, CNPq, in Brazil. Thirdly, Professor Lunyu Xie, who is an associate professor at the School of Applied Economics at Renmin University of China. Fourthly, Tian Xiaohui, who is the deputy head of the Faculty Management Office and also an associate professor at the School of Agricultural Economics and Rural Development at Renmin University of China. And last but not least, my good friend, Professor Liu Jinlong, who is a professor at the School of Agricultural Economics and Rural Development at Renmin University of China. With no further delay, I should invite Professor Orfanò to give her presentation. Please, Professor Orfanò, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Professor Dawisson. Let me share my screen here. Can you all see it?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. So first of all, thank you so much for inviting me. I would like to thank the International Office and all its staff, Professor Aziz and Professor Dawisson, Professor Campos, and our guest professors from China. It is a pleasure to be here with you all today. The main aim of my participation here in my talk is to talk a little bit about how our Confucius Institute is promoting Chinese language and culture at UFMG, all right? It is going to be a challenge because we have been quite busy, and the past 7 years, they have been extremely fruitful for all of us. So I will be running with the fastest here, and probably I wouldn't be able to cover everything. But our Confucius Institute was inaugurated in 2013, so we are 7 years old. And the main aim of our CI is to promote Chinese language and culture, also promote activities that will intensify and foster academic, scientific partnerships with other universities in China, and also to serve as a platform to our society, giving consultation about China. I'm just admitting Professor Aziz here, about China, and also function as a bridge between Chinese agencies and also Chinese universities with UFMG. So putting these in bullet points, the aim, of course, the primary focus, it is on teaching Chinese language and culture. We are pretty much concerned as well with teaching education. We are aware that there is a shortage of Chinese teachers, especially local Chinese teachers around the world. So we are also trying to help and to contribute on that. Provide information and consultation about China. We are also a proficiency test center, so we administer HSK tests. So every year we offer these to our students and also to the outside community. We are also involved in exchange programs among our students and also researchers. And we are, as I said before, promoting this interaction between UFMG and Chinese research agencies, researchers in other institutions as well. It is important, I think, to understand that all those programs and initiatives are pretty much aligned with our language policy. UFMG has released in 2018 a language policy which concentrates on promoting languages for international purposes. So we have somehow all the programs and initiatives that we are involved with, they have to follow this rationale. And as you might see, this language policy is pretty much updated to the needs of our society and also to the needs of internationalization in a broad concept and in a broader view as well. So we are offering our students access to language learning. We are also offering them academic literacy. We are adding them diversity on their academic and studying career. Multilingualism, it is a language policy that supports programs and projects designed for different academic experiences. Developing initiatives that will give visibility to our intellectual productivity, our artistic and cultural activities. We are also pretty much aligned with a view of multilinguistic and multicultural interaction. We are contributing to the teaching and learning of foreign languages, and we are supporting mobility as well. When I when we look at our language policy and also to the initiatives and the programs of our Confucius Institute, we also have in mind that we are acknowledging the concept of language attached with culture. So we are following this language-cultural view that was put forward by researcher, that language and culture are two concepts that are not separately, and in a broader sense as well, expanding the view of language and culture, they are intertwined. So all the activities related to our Confucius Institute and all the programs, the courses that are offered have this view of culture in mind as well that we need to acknowledge. Very important as well in this broader sense and expanding this view and not looking at it in a narrow way is that it is a program, and all the courses that are offered have this as the rationale. When I was talking about the courses, currently we offer basic 1, 2, 3. We are also offering intermediate 1, 2, 3. We have advanced, we have traditional Chinese medicine, and we also have Chinese for business. We always have in mind that it's very important to offer to our students all these levels. And at the moment we are offering, despite the current situation and a shortage of teachers, we managed to offer them all these levels. So in that way, our students, they keep studying and following the activities in a kind of normal as it was before. Thinking about these courses and how involved and how engaged our students are, when we look back in 2014, we started in 2013, at the end of 2013, so we didn't, at that time, the offering for courses, they were not mapped, but in 2014, we started mapping the number of registrations. And from 2014, we had less than 100 registrations. In 2019, I am referring and using in this presentation data from 2019 and some data from this year, but we had more than 50 registrations recorded. So you see how the interest and the number of registrations has increased significantly, all right? This year, we are closing the year, the academic year in our Confucius Institute for regular courses. And despite the fact that nowadays we have less than half of the number of teachers that we used to have, we are closing the year with 450 registrations. So regardless the situation and also the special moment, we see that our students and the community of our institution is still pretty much engaged and interested in taking Chinese courses that are now all online. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that later on. So that is just to give you a brief view of their participation and how engaged they are as well. The main focus or the main drive here of the activities that we are promoting, they are pretty much related to cultural activities. But as I said before, we have culture and language intertwined. We have them mixed. They work. They work together and not as two separate entities. And we have activities that they happen in class, and we have some cultural activities that are some highlights. There are some special moments in which we concentrate more of these cultural aspects. I'm gonna just show to you some of the cultural activities that we have. Let me keep an eye on my time here. In class, we have calligraphy, we have paper cutting, we have ping pong. When we address common sports in China, we also have students' presentations here. These pictures here, they refer to regular courses, okay? So they are university students or group of high school students, our technical school on campus, and we also have the students' presentation when they have to prepare topics related to China, assisted by our Chinese teachers in our Confucius Institute. And they are pretty popular, and the students, they get involved with them pretty much. Now that all our courses are online, we are still having this cultural component in class, and it is pretty, it's still very significant and very present there. So you have here, the classroom now has a new space. So the online space, it's giving opportunities for different practices, and we are investing on cultural component on those classes as well. So we have here examples of paper cutting. We also have here cookery classes. So it's also a way to bring this cultural aspect inside the classroom, giving them more information about it, also enriching the classroom, and also besides that, promoting this exchange, this cultural exchange. And they are pretty curious about it. So they want to learn the language, but they also need, and they ask that from teachers. I think it's also very important, and that gives me the opportunity to talk about one of the topics of this panel, which is cooperation, because we have a mixed group of teachers. We have the Chinese teachers and we have the Brazilian teachers as well working together. And they cooperate a lot when they are developing and designing the classes. So you have the Brazilian view of teaching and you have the Chinese view of teaching. You have they're both blending together and creating something that would be meaningful to our students in our university. We also, I mentioned the regular courses that pretty much addressed to our university students and to our community, but we also have partners. And one of our partners that I brought to talk and to present to you today is our primary school program. We have a strong partnership with our City Council Secretary of Education, and I have here two programs that I would like to talk a little bit about. The first one is the cultural experience with public schools, and the second one is a new project that started with us. The cultural experience gave the insight for the Speaking with the Word project. So the first one here in this table, I will explain it to you. Last year, 2019, we have 21 schools involved in this project. So once a week, these students, they go to our Confucius Institute and they have cultural classes, depending on their age, depending on the level, depending on what is organized for them at that particular day. So we have received 791 students in this project. We had 21 visits and 42 hours in total for this project. And it is very interesting because students, they leave their school, they go on campus and they have Chinese classes, they have cultural activities related to China, and it also adding for their learning process experience, a lot of experience and very rich for them as well. So here I brought some pictures of them writing. There is calligraphy, there is singing, there is also cultural customs topics addressed in these activities as well. Here, I just briefly will refer to the feedback that we get from the coordinators of this school. So mentioning that these programs are very good because the students, they perceive after a while that the students get very involved, they mature in postures and attitudes. It brings a cultural component to their learning process, which is very important, and they feel that this opportunity is very rich for them, and also as a multicultural, to broaden their multicultural perspective of the world. So I think this is interesting to see how this cooperation as well with the public schools are also adding to our students in elementary school now per se. As I said before, those would be activities that happen in class, but we also have dates that are celebrated. We also have a lot of information that it's on our website. It is also on social media. When we give information to our students about Chinese related topics from an array of issues that would go from cultural, for more academic, depending on what teachers perceive in class that the students are demanding from us. But the most important cultural events that we have would be the Chinese Bridge, which is a language proficiency test. We have participated in all versions, local and also national, and our students are always in good positions on those competitions. We also have the Chinese Culture Week. We also participate in the World Wellbeing Week with Tai Chi Chuan classes that we offer for our community, and we keep offering them online as well. We also held the Brazil-China Audiovisual Festival, Calligraphy Context, and we also have the July Festival. So here are just some pictures to illustrate that. The Chinese Cultural Week is a whole week of different activities, and the activities, they don't take place only on campus. They also in some public spaces in the city as well. Last year we were able to do that. This year we held a lot of online activities and enjoyed everybody as well. We have the calligraphy context, and we also had the July Festival. Usually for us we have a 2-week, 3-week break, but we thought it would be important to keep in contact with our students and to make them connected with us somehow. So we held these activities as well. Let me run here, sorry. Well, a very interesting way, and just moving forward a little bit from our activities, are the exchange programs. So we have different exchange programs, and that gives our students the opportunity to enhance and to go deep in Chinese culture as well, and also to sharp on their language. So we have the language and cultural program, we have the summer school, we have a master in Chinese language learning and teaching, we have the translation, we also have an exchange program for traditional Chinese medicine, and we have the economics workshop as well. So here you will find pictures, and we are sending students to participate in all of those programs. It is something that we want to make them participate on everything. So we arrange ourselves and we do our best here to make sure that we have students to send to all of those programs. So the first picture here, where you have 4, we have language and culture program, we have translation program, we have the summer school, and we have the traditional medicine student as well. The second picture on your right, you have a group of students from our high school. They did a summer course there as well. And then at the bottom, you have one of our students from the economics workshop. So they're all pretty much involved on all the activities. And once they go to China, when they have this opportunity, when they return, they want to keep up their studies in Chinese as well. So they get more motivated, and they also come with a different perception. You know, it's also very important and very interesting to give them this experience. And the feedback is also pretty positive. I'm gonna just to show you a message that I got from one of the professors from the university in China. So thanking us for sending outstanding students. It is very interesting to notice as well that all these students, they are a very unique group, because they are pretty much involved they are very driven, you know, they have a goal and they study very hard, they want to fulfill this goal. So they are very dedicated to their studies as well. And our partners, they perceive that when they have the chance to interact with them, which for us is very rewarding. So we're very proud of all of them that we are sending. This year in particular, with all the problems that we had, we were able to send 10 students to this economics workshop because it was at the beginning of the year. They returned, they are learning Chinese, and they are already doing HSK. We administer one application in September, and we are going to do another one in December. And with all our courses, we have a waiting list because unfortunately we weren't able to offer classes to everybody because we were in a different situation this year, but we have a waiting list for next year, and we have things that we need to adjust thinking about these programs and these initiatives. I am concluding now. Sorry if I passed a little bit of the time, but I would like to look at the future. You know, I think the future is very bright. I believe that our Confucius Institute is an indicator of that, all the activities and how our students are working and doing the courses. So I do believe, thinking about the challenges and the opportunities, putting them together, as I have already mentioned, the cooperation, we are willing to intensify the partnership with Chinese institutions. We want to implement the Confucius Chinese Studies program, which is going to have an online version. So we definitely we are going to implement this next year. We are aware of the challenges, so we know that we have a shortage of teachers around the world, Chinese teachers around the world. It is a need to increase the number of teachers, and I believe that our institution is investing on that, sending students to complete their studies, to master with their proficiency, and also to get qualification. We are always looking for expand the scope of our activities, and we are also willing to be a platform that fosters scientific development to the positive, to have a positive impact in our society. I end with that. Thank you so much. And I'm sorry if I took a little bit more of the time. I welcome your questions and your comments. Thank you very much again.
Thank you very much, Professor Orfanò. I hate to be the one who is trying to speed up things. I'm really sorry for being this, very hateful character, but it was unavoidable. I know you will understand.
My apologies.
Absolutely. It was a great showcase of all the magnificent work that our Confucius Institute has been developing over the years. And there's one more piece of news. There's one professor from Renmin University of China who will be delivering a course, a full undergraduate course. His name is Zhuo Xing, and he, in a way, will be kicking off this collaboration at the academic level. So with no further delay, I invite Professor Raoni Rajão to start his presentation. And after Professor Orfanò, she gave some contextual information on the state of the art of our bilateral collaboration. Now we delve into the topic of environmental governance, and I pass the word to Professor Rajão. Thank you, Rajão, for joining us.
Thank you very much, Dawisson. Hello, everybody. It's really a pleasure to be here. So today I'm going to be presenting about our research about which concerns the environmental issues around Brazilian production agriculture and exports of those, specifically in relation to the partnership between Brazil, China, and also the consequences for that partnership of the recent election of Joe Biden in the United States. Let me just share the screen here. Okay. So first of all, it's important to remember very quick and very substantial transformation that has taken place in the last 10 years of the profile of Brazil exports, and on the one hand, and the profile of Chinese food consumption on the other hand. Back in 2010, Brazil's biggest trade partner was the European Union, and China has had less than half of the imports of Brazil's soy and beef that the EU had at that point. Since then, the EU kept actually also increasing some of its consumption in some of those years, but most impressively, China has more than doubled the imports of Brazil's agricultural products, especially soy, but also recently meat. And of course, this has also led to some important transformations in Brazil. It's important to remember that back in 2010, since Brazil was very dependent, reliant on the exports to the EU, when there has been some additional pressure from especially NGOs and civil society in Europe in relation to deforestation, there was very quickly the development of a soy moratoria, which was a private agreement between the biggest soy traders in the world, whereby those soy traders would not buy soy grown in areas of recent deforestation in the Brazilian Amazon. And also in 2012, we had the lowest level of deforestation registered in the Amazon in the history. However, since then, since 2012, deforestation has been going up. And at the same time, the Brazil agribusiness has been more and more reluctant in implementing the Brazilian legislation. And this is partially, in my view, linked to the increase of exports to China, which right now seen by the Brazilian agribusiness as being a country who needs the product and is not so much concerned about the environmental status of what they are buying. And what I'm going to be showing here today is that's not quite true. And actually things are moving fast, and the situation might actually change very quickly for Brazil. And in order to analyze that, I'm going to be showing first what has been the consequences of the China-United States trade war, especially in relation to soy exports, and then trying to understand what's going to be the implications of the United States-China trade agreement signed by the Trump administration at the beginning of this year. So basically in 2017, Brazil exported to China about 54 million tons of soy. So it's already at the point where Brazil has become, and that China has become the biggest buyer of Brazil's soy, and 12 million tons to the European Union, and the United States was exporting 31 million tons to China. But following the trade war, whereby Trump was imposing some tariffs to some of the Chinese products, China, on the other hand, did the same and imposed a tariff on the yellow soy, which is the kind of soy produced in the United States. So it was not, of course, something which had the United States written on it, but of course, when you impose some taxes to a type of soy that's produced in the United States, but not produced in Brazil, it's the yellow soy, since the Brazil mostly export a white soy, then has major consequences. And it's possible to see here that Brazil had the record volume of soy exported worldwide. Most of that, actually more than 70% of that, was going to China, totalizing 6 to 8 million tons. And while the United States soy exports was almost down to zero, only 4 million tons. But in order to solve that trade war, what we had was an agreement signed between the United States and China, where basically since it was perceived by the Trump administration that they needed to balance out the trade balance with China, and maybe the quickest way to do so would be to ask China to buy more agricultural products from the United States. And as such, an agreement was signed whereby China was basically making a compromise to increase substantially the acquisitions of different kinds of products, and especially in relation to the agricultural products. In the first year, they would buy an additional $12 billion US dollars from a current $15 billion US dollars of imports. And then the second year, that would be going to $19 billion, additional 19 billion US dollars in relation to a 2017 baseline. That would implicate in China buying in the second year of the agreement a total of 34 billion US dollars of agricultural products from the United States, which is actually much more than the figures from of Brazil's exports to China in 2019. And since soy has been one of the key export products from the United States in relation to the agribusiness, in addition to meat, we believe that's mostly going to take the form of additional soy imports. And this is, so the agreement was partially suspended this year for different reasons, COVID being one of them, but maybe the most important one has been the intensification of the animosities between China and the United States, with Trump accusing China in relation to COVID, and the intensification of tensions. So what we see in practice is that the agreement has been postponed. The implementation of the agreement has been postponed, at least slowed down. And however, now with the victory of Joe Biden, it's very likely that the agreement that has been already signed is going to be implemented. And so one of the key questions here, what are the implications of that to the global soy trade? And most importantly, what are the implications of that in relation to Brazil and China relations? So what we did here was a scenario based on the assumption that since soy exports represent about 80% of the value of the exports of the United States to China, the total value of the agreement is going to be translated also in volumes of soy in that same proportion. And the United States is going to do its best to be able to provide that much soy. Of course, if the soy sold to China cannot be sold elsewhere. So that's why in here we assume that except for the NAFTA exports, which is mostly for Canada, but also Mexico, which is down the road. So there are different logistic reasons to keep exporting that portion to Mexico, so to the NAFTA countries. The United States is going to basically be rerouting the soy that's currently sold to the European Union and to other countries to China in order to keep up with its own compromise. And this is, it's important to highlight, is happening as China total share of the soybean imports and the soybean traded globally has been increasing over the years, even though there has been a reduction in 2018-19, mostly due to the swine flu disease and then COVID. And also one thing we need to remember here is that when you talk about the exports of soy and meat, we're not talking so much about food security. We're talking mostly about the rise of the Chinese middle class that's now eating meat more often, is discovering beef. And of course, that creates an explosion of demand for soy, especially for animal feed in China, especially for pigs, but also fresh meat exports. And so in this scenario, based on those assumptions, which more details of that is actually in the supplemental material of our article published in Science a couple of months ago, the Rotten Apples of Brazil's Agribusiness. So basically what we found here is that the United States is going to replace most of the space taken up by Brazil in recent years, reverting to some of the situation that Brazil had a few years back, and totalizing the exports towards China in about 58 million tons. And then, of course, China is a big country with a growing demand. So it's still going to be buying from Brazil, but in a much lower proportion. So what we estimate here that China is going to be buying something around 20 million tons. And then the situation is that Brazil is going to, again, have the European Union as the country's biggest importer, in addition to have the need to basically diversify its exporters and look for markets in Pakistan, in India, in many other countries where the United States nowadays have also an important role. But then the key question is, okay, how do you implement that? How do you make those big shifts? Because one of the aspects of the agribusiness sector that we have been studying here at UFMG is that it has a high degree of stickiness, which means that if a set of contracts have been signed, or export contracts have been signed in 1 year, where soy is going from one specific set of farms in Brazil by a specific companies, be it Cofco, which is the Chinese was a large Chinese trader, or Cargill, or many of the other ones. The tendency is that in the next year that the same soy is going to make the same route. And so you need an important stimuli in order to change that trade. The first option would be to tax the white soybean, which is the soybean grown in Brazil and also in Argentina, in the same way the West yellow bean has been taxed. But then that's, of course, it's going to create problems and diplomatic problems with Brazil and contestation and WTO and so on and so forth. The second option would be to pay a premium for the US soybean. And so in order to attract that and make sure that the soybean from the United States exported there instead of the Brazilian one, which then increase costs. And the third one, which is probably the most likely one, is to create environmental barriers against Brazil. It's basically China going to Brazil and say, look, we're not buying as much soy as we used to do before, because right now under this new world that's been formed with Biden as a president, with the EU-China Green Deal agreements, China also is now concerned about the emissions linked to the soybean grown in countries that export to China, and which usually the most common kind of imposition of trade barriers related to the environment. It's the one which also has an economic motivation in the background. And interestingly, in January 2019, as some of the new agreements between the United States and China were being developed, the CEO from Cofco, the largest buyer of soy in the world and the largest buyer from China, has declared that it's very important for them to have a sustainable supply chain, and explicitly mentioned deforestation. And specifically, Cofco has mentioned that in the next years, going to clean its supply chains from deforestation. So there has been some clear signs there that China is really moving towards that direction. And this has happened before, it's important to remember, as it happened with the palm oil in Indonesia, also with timber exports from Brazil, as the EU and the United States also implemented some restrictions. And also leather imports already has been a substantial drop last year. And so there has been this big movement from different companies and from different traders to signal that's an important variable in their investments. So what we are seeing right now is that the business as usual scenario is leading in a situation where Brazil and China is probably going to be in opposite sides of the table as it comes to the understanding that it is indeed an issue to export soybeans linked to deforestation. And so some conclusions here. First, the world has changed. The assumption by Brazil's agribusiness that China is going to buy whatever Brazil sells because it needs the food, etc., it does not hold anymore. And indeed, we're noticing many signs of that. China is a very dynamic country, and when you have a very high level official, such as the CEO from Cofco, saying something, which means that that's for real, that's not just for show. And I think the Brazil agribusiness is taking a long time to realize that. And when they realize this, is probably going to be a bit too late. Because I mean, Brazil could still find a way, and we believe that Brazil and China has a very complementary trade profile, and so it has a lot to win, but it's important for the agribusiness in Brazil to wake up in relation to that. And at the same time, on the other hand, it's important also for Chinese investors and the Chinese government to have to improve their understanding of the environmental impacts of some of the investments in the country. And I think in that regard, studies from both Brazilian and Chinese academia, and also its links with civil society, are very important to show the ways of how to improve that relation and how to make it more sustainable on the long run. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Rajão. It's been a delightful presentation, very straightforward, and very meaningful as well. I now invite Professor Lunyu Xie from Renmin University of China to give her presentation. It's my pleasure and honor. I cannot see you yet, Professor Xie. I'm not sure I can hear you. It's not audible.
谢老师，你听到声音吗？ Maybe some technical. I think she has technical problem. Am I right?
Possibly, yeah. Yes.
Yes, yes. But she shared the screen actually. Yeah.
Yes, she has to unmute now.
I call her. I call her. Huh?
Okay. Yeah, we can perfectly see the screen. The presentation is okay. There's no audio yet.
Oh. 谢老师，你已经是上不去是吧？
我自己这边没有问题，然后我在手机上也能看到我自己了。
我看到的 screen， 但是听不到你的声音。
这样子呢？现在能听到了吗
？Lopes, do you hear the voice of the Professor Xie? No.
Unfortunately,
no. I don't think so. 谢老师，我可能是你没声音。
Maybe while she tries to fix this problem, we should invite the next speaker. Would that be okay?
那个谢老师，要不你把你的 screen 先卸下来，然后呢，你看看到底啥问题了，然后我们再让小田先说，好吧？啊，好嘞，好嘞，
Yeah, I still don't hear Professor Xie.
I think.
So,
okay.
So let's proceed while she tries to fix this problem. Now it's my honor and pleasure to greet Xiaohui Tian.
Yes.
And please, you can share your screen if you're willing to.
Yeah. Can you see me? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I think I need to
share the screen.
Share the screen, but will not be able to.
At the bottom.
在下面有一个，
Can you see my screen now? Oh yeah. Okay.
在那个对，拉下应该可以了，对。Okay.
Can you see my screen now?
Yes. Fortunately, yes.
You
can proceed. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you for Professor Liu Jinlong to invite me to this workshop. It's my great pleasure to share some of the work I'm doing here at the University of China. So I am an associate professor at the School of Agricultural Economics and Rural Development, and I work in the same department with Professor Jinlong Liu. And I graduated from Ohio State in the US in the Department of Agricultural Economics in 2014, and then I joined this department from then. And my research area is separated into two big areas. The first area is focused on the forest sector. So I mainly focus on two branches of questions: forest sequestration and carbon policies. For example, to project the forest carbon sinks in the future, and to compare different carbon policies in terms of their efficiencies and effectiveness, and B, the climate change impacts in the forest sector. by evaluating the economic and environmental impacts, so climate change impacts on the forests, and also to discuss about the efficiency of different adaptation strategies. And the second big area I focus on in China here, because I work in a school with a lot of agricultural economists. So some work I'm doing is related with, for example, environmental impacts of agriculture subsidies in China. And for example, one work I'm doing here is concerning about the environmental impacts of the agricultural mechanical subsidies since 2008. And also, I also doing some work on crop residual management practices and conservation practices. Since today, Professor Liu suggests me to talk about some of the work I'm doing with forestry. So I'm gonna mainly focus on the work I'm doing with forestry. So most of my work are based on the global timber model, which is a model designed in the US, mainly based on Ohio State University while I worked there, while I studied there in my PhD. So the global timber model is a dynamic economic optimization model of the global timber sector. And in the model, the global timber demand is exogenous and driven by population, income, and technology change. A merit of the model is it is a dynamic optimization model, which is a very long-term model, which can keep track of the global forest inventories by making optimization management decisions over forest age classes, areas, and into different forest types. So the model can keep track of forest age classes and investment and where the forest is going to located in the future. Because it can, because it include demand functions. So actually the model, the prices, timber prices also endogenously determined in the model. And the model, currently the model, the version of the model can represent the forest from all regions of the world. I mainly spend a lot of time to updating the inventory of forestry in China. Right now, the inventory information in the model for China is based on the 8th National Forest Resource Survey from 2009 to 2013 by the State Forest Administration of China. So probably we have the best inventory data in terms of China forestry compared with other large-scale forestry inventory economic modeling. So I'm gonna show some of the applications model with my publication. So one application is a work we published in Land Economics in 2018. The work is focused on projecting future carbon flows in forest by accounting for land management changes on both intensive and extensive margins. So by intensive margin, we mean land management changes on the forest, on per hectare land. And extensive margin, we mean land use changes. So what we find in the paper is that US forest remain a carbon sink through most of the coming century. And if we constrain forest land to its current boundaries, which means we constrain the extensive margin chasing, or if we constraining the management to current level, gonna reduce average sequestration by a large amount. So a second application is on the climate change impacts on the forest sector and the market. So because this is the global timber model is an economic model, but in this work, we build it into an integrated assessment analysis where we link a dynamic global vegetation model to this economic model. So the dynamic global vegetation model provides information on changes, for example, of productivity to forest and changes forest diet effects for different forest types in different locations of the world. And the projection based on the model show that without always climate change are within the realm of changes that have occurred in the past 100 years. So some ongoing work I'm doing with the model, for example, this is the work that has been we are working on. Is about we want to project the carbon flows for China's forestry, and will forest achieve its climate targets for by 2030? Because China's NDC stated that China will increase its forest stock volume by around 4.5 billion cubic meters from the 2005 level. So this goal requires an additional 3.1 billion cubic meters from 2014 level, roughly 0.68 giga carbon sinks, which is about, if we compare the carbon sink to China's total CO2 emission levels in 2014, which is about a quarter of China's total CO2 emissions in 2014. So we ask question, is this an ambitious goal for China's forest sector? And if we look upon the history, China has been the largest afforestation country in the world since the last century. To increase forest carbon stocks by 4.5 billion cubic meters by 2030 is a goal that China has to continue its afforestation and land use changes from agriculture sector or from marginal land. China has to continue this trend until 2030, and a perspective we want to focus that is China has been has a lot of institutional changes, and those institutional changes gonna have a stronger impact than expected on forest inventories, because China's forest management types can be separated into three parts. One part is the state natural forest, which account for about 40% of China's forestry, and another large part is private management, or we call it, in China, we call it collectively managed forest land, which account for about half of the nation's forest land. And the other 5% is state ecological plantations. Although the state natural forest land are the best forest resource in the country, but we claim that collectively managed forest land, the inventory in collectively managed forest land has been increased a lot than expected. Why is that? Because private forests become more sustainable because of the tenure reform, and this figure shows the annual average annual growth rate of forest land. And we see that China, because of the investment in private sector, the average annual yield growth in the last 4 decades is about 2%, and the world average is about 1%. So, which means in the private sector, in the collective owned land, the forestry has been growing much faster than the world's average. So some of the preliminary findings from this paper is that we found if there's no government policy, or if the government do nothing to public land, we will project that by 2030 there will be 2.87 billion cubic meters are added to the total stock, to the current stock, in absence of any policy innovation. So China's climate target for a forest by 2030 could be a very reasonable target, but not as a result of public policies. And so the next step, while we are working on the model, we try to add more management types. For example, we try to add more information on province level and add more information on, for example, land cost to the marginal land and land quality information to make the model can have more information about the complicated land use situations in China. There's some other work I'm doing with carbon policies in China. So I'm gonna show one work here. Is actually this is the theoretical work. the work, the motivation of the work is actually, if we look at the literature or in practices, there are a lot of alternatives of carbon policies. For example, some literature propose in the forest sector, if we design a carbon policy, there should be both a subsidy on sequestration or on growth and a tax on emissions. And there are similar policies like a carbon rental system, which was proposed by Sanjay and Manderson in 2003. And they proposed that the government should design a temporary subsidy policy about it's actually like a rental term that you pay for the time the carbon stayed in the forest, because forest sequestration is not permanent. And there are also various subsidy schemes based on various discounting factors to account for problems such as permanences, additionality, leakage. Those policies does consider the carbon content on per hectare land, but there are also some other policies, forest carbon policies in practice, which do not consider the carbon level stored at all, but they consider land use changes. And in 2009, there was a paper published on Science by Sertinger et al., and they proposed that because the introduction of bioenergy demand, there should be and that demand will cause a lot of land use changes in the forest sector, and will cause a lot of carbon emissions in the short term. So there will be a carbon tax on land use change emissions. And also there are other alternatives like Favlo and Mendelsohn proposed there will be an indirect regulation of carbon sequestration in forest. So this paper, I try to create a stylized framework to compare the alternatives of carbon policies in the forest sector. So we examine the cost differences among a group of policies under the circumstances in which a stock resource is managed dynamically. And to our knowledge, this is we are one of the first paper doing such analysis to give a comprehensive comparison of different forest carbon, the efficiencies of different forest carbon policies. So we use a one region, multi-age class dynamic partial equilibrium forest model. And in the model, we try to model the species we use is managed the US southern pine, but we test the robustness of results use alternative species, and we allow adjustments at the intensive margin and extensive margins of forest management. And so by projecting the model, we can derive the marginal cost curves of alternative policies and calculate the losses of economic welfare in the timber market. And those are the 6 policies that we compare that I discussed about. A reference scenario, a scenario with only tax, and 3 per ton subsidy policy, and a per hectare subsidy scenario. So the main result I found in the paper is that first, the worst policy that you want to introduce to the forest sector is a single carbon tax without subsidy, because that will encourage deforestation, and it will create a zero incentive, almost a very small incentive for foresters to increase carbon stocks on per hectare land. So a carbon tax on forest emissions will result in net emissions because it is not able to adjust the intensive margins, and that will result in very high efficiency losses. And the per hectare policy, although it can increase forest land area, but it's very costly. It can be 2 to 16 times more costly than a per ton policy. The policy implication from here that if you design a carbon policy, it's very different from agriculture sector. If you design a carbon policy on the forest sector, you have to care about the carbon stocks, not only either it's forest or not, but you have to care about the intensive margin changes on the land. Otherwise, the project can be very costly. So the differences in marginal cost drastically increase with the level of net carbon emission, indicating very higher efficiency losses at higher carbon prices. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Xiaohui Tian. I now invite again Professor Lunyu Xie. Let's see if it now works.
Yes.
Now I see you. Wonderful.
Okay, so you can see me and hear me too?
Perfectly. Be welcome.
Nice.
Excellent.
Right.
You can share screen. 10 minutes.
Let me share. Oops. Okay, you can see the PowerPoints now, right? Perfect. So, dear professors and directors, I'm very glad to have this opportunity to give you a quick review of my researches and hope you can find some of the topics are interesting and hope we can have opportunities to work on some of them together in the future. So my research areas include energy, environment, and development economics. And these three areas are closely related because we want development and also low carbon and green development. So in the area of energy, I mainly work on residential energy consumption, renewable energy development and policy evaluation, and also China's electricity market reform and international energy cooperation. For residential energy consumption analysis, our department conducted a China residential energy consumption survey annually, starting from 2013. And so far, so each year we covered, it's a household level survey. Each year we covered thousands of households. So far we have about 30,000 households surveyed in this data set. With this household level energy consumption survey, we are working on understanding the household energy consumption structure and the patterns in China. We try to understand the effectiveness, the efficiency, and the effects of the household energy transition programs. Now we have published 6 books in both Chinese and English, and the 2 more books are coming soon. And we also published journals on nature energy, energy policy, etc. And we also obtained data from India Residential Energy Consumption Survey. So with these 2 data sets, we are working on understand the difference between China and India in household energy consumption, and also the factors that drive the differences. About renewable energy development and policy evaluation, we focus on China's renewable energy development, including the drivers of the development and its impacts. Only when we understand the supporting policies to the renewable energy development, we can design more effective policies to support the development of renewable energy. And also about international energy cooperation, we try to understand how international cooperation such as international trade, FDI, joint initiative, how these corporations affect the social welfare and national security through energy market and energy industries. Okay, the second major area I work on is about environment and climate change. We have 2 comprehensive data sets. One is hourly data, air pollution data from all monitoring stations in China. And we have measured index for air quality, such as AQI, PM 2.5, PM 10, and etc. And also we have daily weather data from all monitoring stations over the country since 1980. And the variables include wind speed and the direction, temperature, pressure, solar radiation, and etc. So with this data set, we work on understanding the effects of various environment policies, such as driving restriction, license plate lottery, mandate migration of high polluting firms. We also evaluate the effects of environmental pollutions on various aspects of socioeconomic outcomes, such as energy consumption, energy using durable goods, such as air purifier, air conditioner, heater. About climate change, with the weather data set merged with other data sets, we try to understand individuals' preferences toward climate policy and measure the impacts of climate change on China's economic sector. Last about the development area. So in this area, I mainly working on the targeted poverty alleviation program of China in the new era. So we constructed a high quality database for rural extremely poor individuals and households. And this database is called China Poor Population Long-Term Tracking Database. In this database, we have administrative registration data, long-term follow-up survey data, field experiment data, and policy experiment data. They are all integrated. With this data, we have information of the poor population. And this data set can be applied to various studies and relevant assessment of the micro behaviors of the poor population. So we also merge this China Poor Population Long-Term Tracking Database with some other database, such as Student Education Database, Poverty Alleviation Workshop Survey Database, Non-Impoverished Household Survey Database, and also data for disabled persons, and also the rural residential electricity consumption database. So with these data sets, we can have the portraits of the poor and the causes of the poverty. We do evaluation of the targeted poverty alleviation policies, such as moving to opportunity program, infrastructure investment in the TPA program, officer village matching and home visits policy, free job training and wage subsidies. And we care about the effects of the TPA programs on household income, labor supply, inequality, and more. So here are some results we find. First, we find we plot the portraits of the poor. We find that most poor households consist of 3 or 4 household members. Most of them are relatively old and with low education level, and they are generally in bad health condition. And most poor households live on wage transfers and operating income. Property income contributes little, indicating that they have a low level of saving and assets. And also, poor households have little land. The number is each poor household only have 2.27 mu agricultural land. Mu is a Chinese land measurement unit. 1 mu equals 667 square meters. And also we find that the main causes of poverty is the top 5 causes of poverty include diseases, lack of technology, disability, lack of money to start, and lack of education. We did empirical analysis on the effects of the TPA program as a whole package. As I mentioned, that TPA program is composed with many policies. There are 6 main types of TPA programs, including 23 projects in total, such as educational, financial, industrial, and infrastructure poverty alleviation programs, and also the Moving to Opportunity program and the Whole Village Promotion program, and etc. Most poor households are covered by 2 to 4 programs during 2014 and 2018. Use regression we find that there exists a jump on the probability of being qualified for the TPA program and 2,855 yuan per person. So we use this discontinuity as an instrument to identify the effect of TPA program on poor households' income. And the results show that the program leads to a higher income of the qualified households in after the TPA program. We also have done the empirical analysis on the effect of the Moving to Opportunity program. So this program is to move the households who live in shabby and in shabby houses, which is far from resources, relocate them from those shabby houses to new constructed houses which are located in the areas close to like work opportunities, such resources. So we conduct an event study of the Moving to Opportunity program. We estimate the difference of income between the treatment group and the control group. And we find that the MTO program increases household income. And we also investigate the mechanism and find that the mechanism is that the MTO program improved the labor supply and the labor conditions of the relocated households. And for infrastructure investment, it is the most important investment in the TPA program. So we evaluated its effect on poverty alleviation. We find that the total infrastructure investment in the TPA program did not significantly affect poor population's rural income, but electricity and irrigation infrastructure investments increased the rural income and also reduced the rural income inequality. In the TPA program, the unique institutional arrangement is that officers are paired up with poor households and they are required to make home visits regularly to the paired up households. For example, in the surveyed county, more than 5,000 officials were assigned to the poor households. On average, one official was paired up with 2 or 3 households. And we find that officials which are a good match to the household's need and the officials who have potential endowments and officials who are at higher positions can lead to a larger income increase in their assigned households. So this finding implies that we need to pair up the officials with households who need their resources. Okay, yeah, that's a very quick review of the researchers. Hope you find some of them are interesting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Lunyu. It's been a fascinating presentation of your research work. I now invite Professor Liu Jinlong
Yes, I make a quick, presentation. Make a quick presentation. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Can you hear my voice? I think so.
Perfectly.
Yes. Okay. Very quick, presentation. Actually, the professor, she already mentioned, the poverty elevation program in China. We have the huge, the ambitious program. Actually, the no absolute poor by end of this year. That's our goal. Our goal. The meaning of the absolute poor. That means, true. No worry and sweet guaranteed. I think it's you saw that the food and clothes, no worry. You have clothes, you have food, and you have education, you have basic health care and house for living. So we have the resettlement program as we have slogan. We said none were left behind to shall come at 2020. That's our political slogan. Actually, if we look at the incident rate, poverty incident rate, it's dropped down very quickly. In the last 20 years, almost it should be go to 0 by end of this year. And the action to the professor, she already mentioned a lot of action we have done for this program. They actually have, if I summarize, there are several issues. One is enhance grassroots level governance, try to improve the local governance, and the industrializing agricultural modernization. That is also another, they call it, they provide a job for the poor people. You see, actually, a few days ago, I visited the very extremely poor areas. The industrialization actually is happen, it's occur, it works there. They have machine, they have workers like this. They used to be 5 years ago. They have nothing there, but now they have. But they have actually have problem for unskilled employees or whatever the market. But now recent months the international market is good, so they can export. So I saw that. And also the massive investment in education, health, and infrastructure. That's already mentioned by Professor Xi. And the market for the poor, for poor, improved market for poor area, the commodity from the poor areas. And also, mobilize the private sector to invest in the poor regions. That's another, measures. The one the professor already mentioned, that is large-scale resettlement. We have allocate 10 million people, around 10 million people to the place, close to a city, close to job areas. That is another important issue. Okay, if we look at the China poverty program, the elevation program, we have to consider precondition. One is we have dual open and rural dual system. That is separate. We have the hukou, system, the agricultural hukou, or the open, citizenship. Another one, if you look at the condition of urbanization rate is increased very fast in the past 20 years, and the economic growth also have enhanced in the poverty elevation program. The economic progress is quite well in the last 20 years. As well as, if you look at the poverty region, actually it's matching with the ecological fragile regions. Majority of poverty region in China is located in the ecological fragile region. So that is a very important issue in China to be solved, to look into, to act. And the migration. There are many, the people used to live in the countryside, now they move to the city. So that is also help to the poverty elevation program. And the debts, that is very similar to, I think it's Brazil, a situation. That is a rural period, rural regime. They also invest a lot in the poverty region, the poverty elevation, but many of the money is not from the reallocate of the financial resources owned by government, but actually spend the money actually is from the debt. So that the debt in China, national the government debt in China is increased a lot particularly in the 5 years. Actually, if we look at the you know, the situation, I think in the rural areas, because it's also rich culture areas, the loss of the local cultures, it's local lifestyles, also the issues. So the traditional knowledge is losing. So that is, you know, we are aware of this, but it's hard. You see, the people have choice. They have the choice to be moralized, to be, you know, live in good conditions. And I think there are many issues we have the potential to you know, cooperate in the future between Brazil and China. Like, you know, okay, should we look at, you know, to comparative study between China and Brazil for poverty elevation strategy and outcomes? Also, how to you know, how to integrate poverty elevation and the ecosystem restoration. I think there are many issues we can discuss in the future for our future cooperation. That's all what I want to talk about. Lopes, I finished my okay.
Thank you, Jinlong Liu. It's been a very interesting as well as enticing presentation, because it's pointing towards the future, and I like it very much. So it's already 10:53, and it's up to me, the final task of trying to wrap it up. I can tell you in all honesty, I was really pleased to listen to each and every one. It's been a great session, from the first talk delivered by Professor Saliba until this last one by Professor Jinlong Liu. My feeling is that we are headed for a very fruitful cooperation, and there's no way we are making a mistake. I'm pretty sure we are bound for a very interesting and rich collaboration. Well, what I can tell you from my perspective, and I must tell you my background is the one of a political scientist, so of course I have some biases, but from what I see, there's much to cooperate on issues relating to public policies.
Yes.
There's a lot of potentials. As we could see, and both Saliba and Orfanò have touched on this aspect, there's much there's little knowledge on each other, and there's a huge avenue to be covered, so we need to learn from each other. And so the first two talks were very meaningful in this regard. They have paved the way, so we could eventually we could cover topics more directly related to the environment or resource management and public policies. And I like the way they very nicely overlap all the presentations. And from, as I mentioned before, from the first one until the last one, they all are interconnected, they are intermingled in different ways. Just to mention a few aspects that drew my attention, when Professor Rajão, he gave his presentation, and his presentation was really informative and enlightening for me, and I belong to the field of Brazilian foreign policy analysis. Even though I didn't know many aspects, he brought to our knowledge, for instance, that Brazil, and this I know, Brazil has been behaved in a very defiant way towards China lately, over the last 2 years or so. But what he claims, and I think he's absolutely right, is that China could easily change its soy providers. And this is nice, because over the years, there are many possibilities China could reach, some of them in Africa. And I'm referring specifically to soybeans, but this argument applies to other primary goods as well. So that was a wake-up call, a very powerful, very powerful.
Yes. Yes.
A lovely one. And
Yes.
as I believe I can speak for Jinlong, because I know him for long in
Yes.
this sense. We disagree with all this hostility, with all this bellicosity. We want to collaborate, right?
Sure.
Yes, so it was a
Yes.
good point raised by Professor Rajão, a very powerful one. Then we have learned from Professor Tian Xiaowei how China has been grappling with environmental governance and putting forth new policies for reforestation and for forest preservation. And this is somewhat new. When we look back, we see that China has been changing, has been adapting in intelligent ways in order to become a green superpower. In the past, China didn't used to be this kind of international player. China used to be an environmental villain, but it has changed so dramatically. And now China is becoming a role model for many nations around the world. And Brazil, contrarily, Brazil has changed it in a bad way, because Brazil used to be a world champion, used to have very good credentials with regard to the environmental governance. But over the last few years, things are changing, and Brazil is running the risk of being treated like a pariah, an outlaw. This is too bad. So let's hope for the best. Let's hope for the best. Let's learn from each other. And I believe there are many ways we can convert all this energy, all this enthusiasm into good public policies for both Brazil and China. And there's also one aspect which drew my attention, the talk on energy. This is very, very important issue to be dealt with. And both Brazil and China show great potentials. Brazil and its hydroenergetic sources. Brazil is or used to be #1 in the world when it comes to hydroenergetic energy generation, while China has been heavily investing in renewables, solar energy, and the like. You guys know much better than me the particular aspects of energy, but this is also an important area of convergence where both UFMG and Renmin University of China could cooperate on. And Professor Lunyu Xie's presentation, a very nice one, in fact, was revolving around these issues and the topic of poverty alleviation. Poverty alleviation also is, Jinlong, a critical issue. And we should give a look at poverty alleviation. Our teams, our research teams, because it concerns deeply both Brazil and China. Although China and Brazil, they have different profiles, country profiles, so to speak. What do I mean? China's poverty is more located at rural zones, while
rural zones, and you're in a city. Yes.
Exactly. Brazil's poverty is more visible. It's more. It exists at rural zones, of course, but it's more visible and more prominent at urban areas. So we should also exchange our experiences and again learn from each other. This is what our cooperation is all about. We have many possibilities lying ahead. As I mentioned right at the beginning, when I see the title of this panel, Challenges and Opportunities, I tend to place emphasis on the opportunities because I believe are abundant and we should all benefit from it. So my dear colleague, Professor Jinlong Liu, would you like to add anything?
The few words. One is, one is, I think, we have the great potential to work together. China is one side, and Brazil another side. We have many similar problems. The president, of my university, before this section, before this panel, they asked me whether or not is it possible to have the professor exchange next year. It depends on the pandemic. Anyway, he like to invite some professor from your university come to visit us, and also we like to send our professors to visit you. That is one activity proposed to me this afternoon. Another thing is, shall we start up, we send our PhD student candidates to your university for stay 1 year, and with your supervisors, with a professor you identify to co-supervisor, also isn't any possible from your side, send some PhD student to my university. We home them, we provide the facility for them, in my university to work together. As I mentioned, is that any possible, to be sent before to identify the PhD graduate PhD students. After graduate, you identify or you potential have faculty member for university. You can send him to here for 2 years as a postdoc. We can offer the postdoc position for them. That's basically what we have the maybe next year for our corporations. Definitely you can assign some professor to our university campus, no problem. Okay.
Excellent, and I
am. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Because actually our young generation in my campus, they can speak good English, but they have the boy and the girls, the family. But our elder generation, like the age like me, they very few of them can speak English. That's the problem of university. Okay. Thank you very much.
We will tackle these problems jointly, and it will be to have you all around. It was a great sample of what we can do together this morning for Brazil, this evening for China. And thank you, Jinlong, for being such a hard-working person and for making this possible. We are so happy to have
work together, hand by hand. Work together. Yeah,
you're just great, a great partner. So I think we're coming to a close.
Yes, close. Yes,
being a great initial step towards this Renmin UFMG collaboration. Maybe Professor Saliba would like to close this session. I don't know if he's around to give.
I'm around. Yes, of course. Well,
it's over to you, my dear friend.
So my dear friends, Jinlong and Dawisson, as I said before, I share the enthusiasm, the enormous enthusiasm of Liu Jinlong in this partnership, along with Dawisson and Bárbara. We are very excited about it. We hope to be able to exchange professors in 2021. Let's set our best thoughts so that we get rid of this pandemic. May once again get together. I would like to be, right now, I would prefer to be in person with all of you and to celebrate this with a hug, which will have to be virtual. But as soon as this is over, I would try to do it in person. And well, I look forward, Jinlong, to seeing you here or to visiting Renmin in the beautiful city of Beijing.
Yes. We can plan for next year. Yes.
One of my favorite cities in the entire world.
Yes.
I think we have began this very important initiative with an excellent event. And I know there are many other excellent events to come, which will foster our mutual understanding and help us bring our nations together.
Sure.
Closer.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, Raoni. Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.